Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are doing a 12-team PPR mock draft on Yahoo with some other people. Now, obviously, since we're doing this in May, people are gonna leave after a certain amount of time, but this will give us a better idea of what ADP looks like, at least in my opinion, when compared to drafting on an app like Sleeper or Fantasy Pro. So in this video, we're going to kind of just go over my perspective of my picks at pick number 10, and then I'm going to be talking about the other picks in the draft because we will have a decent amount of time to go through a lot of the picks while the draft is going on. So if you guys do end up enjoying this fantasy football mock draft, you want to see more content from myself, I post fantasy football mock drafts, I post videos breaking down players, and all types of other stuff, sleepers, and then in the season, it's waiver wire ads, it's trades, it's start sits, it's everything that you guys would want for fantasy football. So if you are new, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But without further ado, let's get into it. The first pick of the draft was going to be, I assume it was Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, it was Christian McCaffrey at the 101, which is going to be pretty typical if I'm being honest with you guys. This season, I think that Christian McCaffrey will be the #1 overall guy going again, but I don't think it's as locked in as last season where pretty much every single time CMC was going at 1. I think you're going to see leagues where guys like Dalvin Cook go at 1, Derrick Henry. Some people might take Alvin Kamara at 1. Some people may be confident in Saquon Barkley, just like I am, and maybe they'll take him at #1 overall. So after McCaffrey came Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and Saquon Barkley. Now, Travis Kelce is going to be a hot pick, I would say, from picks 5 through 7 inside of the first round. I would be surprised if you're picking at pick 10 where I am at in the draft if he was going to end up actually falling to you. This is just because the positional value is so strong. It's a set it and forget it. Whereas a lot of people, they wait on their tight ends, which is typically what I do. But in this case, every single week, Kelce's in your lineup. He's dropping 10, 15 points every single game. You just feel very confident every week knowing that your tight end's going to do good. Whereas if you're in the situation of streaming tight ends, sometimes they shit the bed for you. So after Travis Kelce was Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Nick Chubb, Devontae Adams, and Aaron Jones. So now it is my pick. And I think it's pretty simple here to go with Ezekiel Elliott. I also like Jonathan Taylor a lot. To me, they are very close in my rankings, and it could go either way. Obviously, Zeke did not have the hottest 2020 season, but when Dakota Prescott was healthy, Zeke was looking so much better. This whole offense was just running way better, and I think in 2021, even with not the greatest of offensive lines, usually the Dallas Cowboys have one of the better lines in the NFL. Last year, it didn't really look like that, but I do think their line will be good enough to be fine for Ezekiel Elliott. I think this offense is going to be scoring a shit ton of points, so I think that Ezekiel Elliott is clearly worth that pick at the 110. After we make our next pick, I'm going to go back and talk about all the other picks that happened before I make the second pick, because we only have 30 seconds to make each pick. So we already have Ezekiel Elliott on our team, as you guys can see up above me. So we're probably going to be looking here to go either running back or wide receiver. I think that it's very open at this point in the draft, either going running back or wide receiver. I like a lot of the running backs. I like a lot of the receivers, and I do feel confident that a guy like J.K. Dobbins could end up falling my way. So I'm going to hope that that ends up happening. Maybe it doesn't. And then I'm stuck with maybe, you know what, I'm going to just take the receiver that I want, and his name is Stefon Diggs, wide receiver of the Buffalo Bills. In my opinion, I think that Stefon Diggs could legitimately be the wide receiver 1 at the end of the season. I think that just because of how he played last year and how strong the Buffalo Bills offense should project to be in 2021. Now, obviously, some people say that he's going to regress because he played so good last year, but I think that the potential there is very high because of how good this Buffalo Bills offense is with Josh Allen and Diggs. So, to recap what happened before we went with Stefon Diggs, after we went with Zeke, Jonathan Taylor came out the board, followed by Austin Eckler, Tyreek Hill, DeAndre Hopkins. We went with Diggs, Justin Jefferson came after him, Joe Mixon, Cam Akers, and George Kittle meet Timbers. Now, George Kittle as well as Darren Waller are up there with Kelce. In my opinion, Kelce is the clear tight end #1, but those guys are going to go around the range of Travis Kelce. I'd say Kelce is like a lock and loaded top 10 pick, and then Kittle and Waller could go anywhere inside of the second or third round. I would say if they fall out of the third round, that being Kittle or Darren Waller, you just frankly have to smash the fucking draft pick button because the value there is just so strong. After Kittle came Antonio Gibson, A.J. Brown, and DK Metcalf. So the first round heavily dominated with running backs. 10 out of the top 12 picks were running backs. The only non-running backs were Davante Adams and Travis Kelce, who are considered the number one at their position. Now, again, I think that Stefon Diggs could be the number one guy. I will have Davante Adams ranked number one at wide receiver just because of how safe he is. But right now, he doesn't seem the safest because we genuinely have no fucking idea what is going on with Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys are new. I kind of talk about this in a lot of videos. Let me know what you guys think about Aaron Rodgers at this point, because it seems like he just actually may not be the Green Bay Packers quarterback, which I originally thought. And then the more I was looking into it, the more these odds are moving around. The Denver Broncos are moving up in the Super Bowl odds. Why else would that be? It's not because Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock are the quarterbacks there. It's because Vegas might believe that Aaron Rodgers may be going there, and it would make perfect sense. Their offense, their weapon-wise, is pretty solid. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. They have Jerry Jeudy. They have Cortland Sutton. They have KJ Hamler. They have Tim Patrick. At tight end, they also have Noah Fant. The defense is, in my opinion, a very solid defense, and they're in the AFC. Now, obviously, the scariest part about being in on the Broncos would be that you have to go up against Justin Herbert, the pervert, and Patrick Mahomes. So maybe he just ends up not going there, but there's also a chance, in my opinion, that he does. Speaking of Patty Mahomes, after DK Metcalf came Patrick Mahomes, Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, and Calvin Ridley. So Patrick Mahomes in your league is going to go anywhere from the first overall pick in the draft, I would say, to be a third-round pick. He pretty much never falls out of that unless you are in a league with people who are super big into fantasy, and they're just going to go ahead and hammer running backs, wide receivers early, and wait later on quarterbacks. I've been in leagues in years prior where Pat Mahomes falls a little bit further, but typically in your normal league, he's going to be a top 3 round pick. After Mahomes was Keenan Allen, Michael Thomas, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, and Allen Robinson. So it seems like the running backs aren't necessarily going to be there that I am completely sold in on. Let me go ahead and click on the running backs on here. DeAndre Swift, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chris Carson, David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs. Now, while on Sleeper, you could probably get Chris Carson in the 3rd or 4th, or probably in like the 4th, 5th round. I think by the time we're doing our drafts, people are going to talk up Chris Carson, and by people, I mean myself. I love Chris Carson. I genuinely think that it's ludicrous that he's not a top 3 round pick, and it's my turn to pick right now. He's on the board. To me, that is a no-brainer. The Seattle Seahawks offense loves to run the ball, and this guy is just very fucking good when he gets the ball in his hands in Seattle, and I think that he has potential to be a top 10 running back week in, week out, and getting that in the 3rd round to me is enough value to want to pull the trigger there in round 3. Could he have been available in round 4? I would say probably not, based upon the amount of running backs coming off the board. Now, like I said early on, the running backs go very fucking early, but in the 2nd and the 3rd round, typically the wide receivers start flying off the board, but in this draft, we're seeing a lot more running backs than I probably would have projected to see inside of the 2nd and 3rd round. So after we went with Chris Carson, David Montgomery came off the board, followed by Darren Waller and Myles Gaskin. I do like David Montgomery, but I am a little bit worried about this situation because he really started balling out after they ended up relieving their dumb head coach of the play calling ability. They gave it to someone else, and now he's taking it back, so that does kind of scare me a little bit. That is Matt Nagy I'm talking about. After Myles Gaskin came Josh Jacobs, a guy who I am fading heavily at the running back position. I do not love any of these picks, so I'm just going to go ahead and hop back onto the wide receiver train and reach a little bit in the draft and go ahead and draft my boy Bobby Trees, wide receiver of the Los Angeles Rams. I love Robert Woods in 2021. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I fucking love this guy. This offense is going to be potent. They are going to be moving the ball with efficiency with Matthew Stafford under center with a strong defense. I think that Robert Woods has the potential to do big things just like he did in 2020 as well as in 2019. I would understand the argument to go with Amari Cooper, but I also do slightly worry about the fact that there's so many guys there. I understand Cooper played good last year, and Cooper's prior problem to last year was that this guy was as inconsistent as it gets. In some games, this guy is skull fucking defenses, and the defense would be amazing. And then the next week, he plays up against a team that can't stop anything, and then the guy plays terrible. But last season, he was not that. He was just ultra consistent. Now, after I went ahead and went with Robert Woods, At the turn here, Najee Harris came off the board, followed by Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Now, Najee Harris is a guy that is going to be a top second or third round pick, maybe even a first round pick by the time you're drafting in August. I think that getting him in the fourth round now is a certified steal. This guy's going to get a whole lot of carries. Now, I didn't even see him on the board, so that's my fault for not picking him, but I also think that it's severely, I'm not even sure if that was the word used here, but very, very, very unrealistic when compared to what we're going to be seeing in August, because the rookie hype every single year gets so crazy. By August, people have, the NFL draft happens and people are like, okay, they simmer down, and then people start watching Najee Harris, Alabama fucking college football highlights set to some crazy rap song, and then they get absolutely erect to draft Najee Harris in the first round. Every single year, the rookie fever occurs, and I don't think the Steelers are going to be that team that is on Hard Knocks, but there's also what I like to describe as the Hard Knocks fucking theory, which is that when they air Hard Knocks on HBO, people fall in love with the guys. It happened last year kind of with Austin Eckler. It happened in the past with the Browns, where people are drafting Baker, Chubb, all these guys highly because they're seeing them, they like the person, and then they just start drafting them. It's what happens every single year. Now, if you don't watch Hard Knocks, they probably won't impact you at all, but in my opinion, it definitely does impact drafts. After Najee Harris came off the board, we saw Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, C.D. Lamb, Josh Allen, Melvin Gordon III, Amari Cooper, Chase Edmonds, and DJ Moore. Chase Edmonds in the fourth round. Sheesh, that's a severe overpay in my opinion. I think that he's going to be good, but I don't feel that confident to draft him inside of the fourth round. Definitely don't understand Melvin Gordon or Chase Edmonds or Josh Jacobs or Myles Gaskin. Maybe Myles Gaskin, but over Kareem Hunt. I mean, Kareem Hunt is just super safe in that Cleveland Browns offense that loves to run the ball, and he is going to be seeing a whole lot of receptions. After that, we see Tyler Lockett. Now, Lockett is basically what I described Amari Cooper as one of the more inconsistent wide receivers in fantasy football. He literally had a game last year against Arizona, drops his nuts in the mouth of the Arizona Cardinals, scores like, I think it was honestly like 50 PPR points. Maybe it wasn't. It was like 40-something. The game goes in overtime. He scores like 2 touchdowns. He goes absolutely insane. And then the next game, he shits the bed. And then he shits the bed again. Then the next week, he balls out. He's just so inconsistent. And when you're trying to find a consistent starter in the 5th round to be your wide receiver 2 or 3, you're going to be very hard-pressed to find that, in my opinion, in Tyler Lockett. After Lockett came James Robinson, my boy. But sadly, they massacred my boy, which is a quote from a movie. They just have. I mean, drafting Travis Etienne has completely dismantled the establishment of a James Robinson second-year domination tour version number 2. After that was Adam Thielen, TJ Hockenson, and Brandon Ayuk. Hockenson is a guy that I really like, as they didn't really pull the trigger on a wide receiver early. They waited till much later in the draft, which means that I think Jared Goff is going to be feeding TJ Hockenson. After Golladay comes Lamar Jackson. Through the first 5 rounds, we've seen 3 quarterbacks off the board. Again, in every league, it's going to be different. In some leagues, 10 quarterbacks already off the board. In some leagues, maybe just Patrick Mahomes, depending on the league. I think Mahomes is going to be unanimously the quarterback 1 for, what is it, the 3rd year in a row in this point for quarterbacks being drafted as the number 1 guy, except for maybe 2 years ago, was that, where everyone was talking up Lamar Jackson, and then he ended up not being as good as people projected. So after Lamar came Titty Boy T. Higgins. We have 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, so I feel pretty confident here looking at the running back position. I like Damian Harris, but don't love the situation. I love Mike Davis, and I think I'm going to pull the trigger here because I'm not too sure how far he will fall down. I think that some people will call this a reach, but based upon what we know right now, Mike Davis is the clear running back 1 on that team. The other guy right here, Javion Hawkins, out of college, looks like he might sniff up for some carries, but Atlanta has not really added anyone that scares me at all for a Mike Davis complete domination, just like he did last season. When Christian McCaffrey went down, Mike Davis was a baller, and I think that we may end up seeing that again in 2021. Sure, some might call it a reach, but at the point where we are at in the draft with running backs that I want, I don't love any of these guys. So at the wide receiver position here is where we're going to be looking at this next pick. Odell Beckham Jr., Chase Claypool, Juju, DJ Chark, Cortland Sutton are on the board as the best available receivers. I don't like Odell. I don't like Juju. I like Cortland Sutton. Coming off the injury, though, I think I feel pretty confident in Chase Claypool as the wide receiver 2 in Pittsburgh, I like Deontay Johnson as well. I'm just fading Juju in every single league. I just don't see it anymore with Juju. I think he's a solid player, but I just don't think he's high enough in the pecking order there in Pittsburgh to really be worthy of a pick. Now, looking at tight ends, we are in the 6th round. Mark Andrews' value here is very strong. I think that with the addition of a legitimate wide receiver into that offense of the Baltimore Ravens, which they ended up drafting, is going to be very helpful for Mark Andrews in being able to get more targets, considering he was easily the best wide receiver on the team for the past 2 years, and he plays the tight end position. So I think that opens up the field a lot more for Mark Andrews, and we could see a lot better of a season when compared to last year, because I was all aboard the Mark Andrews hype train in 2019, and it paid off. 2020, I was still riding high on Mark Andrews, but that did not end up paying off. But I think in 2021, he could look like the old Mark Andrews from 2019, where the guy was just ruling the world. After we went ahead and we drafted Mike Davis, Cooper Kupp came off the board, followed by Kyler Murray, Deontay Johnson, Dakota Prescott. Then we went ahead and drafted Chase Claypool, followed by Justin Herbert, Raheem Mostert, Mark Andrews, Aaron Rodgers, Odell Beckham Jr., Ronald Jones II, Russell Wilson, and Damian Harris. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 quarterbacks off the board. So 8 quarterbacks out of the 12 teams. Typically, again, guys, I wait pretty long on quarterbacks. I'm not the kind of player that wants to go ahead and reach and get a quarterback super early, because I just don't really see the value in doing that. I'd rather draft a longer shot guy later in the draft, even though it's not too much of a long shot for me. A guy like Joey B, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford, I like a lot. Brady, Matt Ryan has some upside, especially if Julio Jones stays. Kyle Pitts, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, very good. Hayden Hurst still there. Mike Davis, this could be a very ferocious offense. Deshaun Watson is a guy that is going to end up being a top 5 quarterback off the board if things are resolved by then. But again, we have no idea. Same thing kind of goes with Rodgers. Now, Rodgers obviously didn't do something that Deshaun Watson is alleged to have done, but we don't know if Aaron Rodgers is even going to fucking play in 2021. He may just retire and be the Jeopardy guy. So, like, what do you do with Aaron Rodgers? I mean, I'm still going to draft him because I think he's going to end up playing in 2021, but I am a little bit worried that he's not going to be the Green Bay guy. After Dallas Goedert was Jalen Hurts, Leonard Fournette, Noah Fant, Kenyon Drake, and Juju Smith-Schuster. After Juju Smith-Schuster, we see Travis Etienne come off the board, followed by David Johnson. Don't draft David Johnson in the 7th round. I liked him last year as a late-round pick. I saw the upside, and it didn't pay off. I'm telling you right now, with the running back core they have there, Lindsey, Johnson, and Mark Ingram, big trust, woo-woo, it's not going to pay off this year. It's just not. After that, we see Baby Chark, Baby Chark. Travis Etienne is a solid 7th round pick, in my opinion. I am worried, though, that maybe James Robinson is the guy for too long, and it's kind of just a fucked situation, or it's a true 50-50, which in that case, you're screwed as well. I think James Conner might be worthy of a 7th round pick, and I do think that Chase Edmonds is going to be the starter, but if something was to happen to him, or if Connor gets more carries, I think he's worthy of a 7th round pick. Nothing higher than that, though. I don't even love drafting him in the 7th, but the running back rooms are getting dismantled right now in this fantasy draft. There's really no really super solid running backs that I feel ultra confident in available at this time. A guy I like a lot, somewhat not even based upon my fandom of the Dolphins, but based upon how he played last year, is Will Fuller. But I am a little bit worried about him with all these weapons in Miami. He's also suspended the first game, which isn't the greatest because you can't even try to see what he does week 1 before you throw him into your lineup. I like Tyler Boyd, but now with Jamar Chase there, I don't love that. I do not love that. So looking at the board after we went ahead and drafted James Conner, Colton Sutton came on the board, followed by Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams is a guy that I will be targeting a decent amount. I probably should have taken him over James Conner, if I'm being honest with you. No, I would say, actually, that's a lie, because I think that that's a backfield where it's a true 50-50. It's going to be a true 50-50. If you draft Gordon, you're fucked. If you draft Williams, you're fucked, unless, of course, one of them ends up getting injured, and then you're very happy with the one that didn't end up getting hurt, because they're going to be seeing a whole lot of carries in an offense that should be better in 2021. Robbie Anderson's a guy I like a decent amount as well. Boyd, again, I do like, but now he's like the wide receiver 3 there. Curtis Samuel is a guy I actually really like a lot. and I'm going to end up taking him because I think that he provides a lot of value now in Washington as the clear wide receiver 2 behind Terry McLaurin with Ryan Fitzpatrick under center. I just think that bodes really well for what could be an excellent 2021 year. Plus, the fact that this guy is just such an explosive player, like you just get him the ball in space and the guy is going to make tremendous moves for the team. So I think that's actually a pretty solid pick there in the 8th round. After James Conner went Courtland Sutton, Javonte Williams, Los Angeles defense, Tyler Higbee, Curtis Samuel, and the Washington football team defense. Again, guys, don't be the asshole who drafts a defense super early. Wait until the last round. There will be a video posted in the future of me talking about which defense to pick, and by me picking these defenses, I'm looking to stream them every single week. So I look at the schedule. The schedule comes out, I believe, Wednesday of this week, which is very soon already, crazy, or Thursday, something like that, and you want to find a defense that's playing up against an offense that you think is going to struggle or get sacked or maybe throw some picks, and then you draft that defense. Then week 2, you fucking drop them like it's hot, Snoop Dogg style, and then you pick up a new defense week 2, unless, of course, they have 2 good matchups back-to-back, which is even more ideal. After Washington came Mike Licky, Amagasiki, Tom Brady, Deebo Samuel, and the Pittsburgh defense. Deebo is a guy that I also like a decent amount in these middle rounds. Obviously, we didn't see a lot out of him last season due to the injury going into the season. Then he got hurt during the season. But I do think that in San Fran, even if Jimmy Guap is the starting quarterback, that's a very interesting spot. Robbie Anderson and Justin Tucker the fucker. I did make my video yesterday if you guys want to check it out. If you play Dynasty, I talked about my Dynasty quarterback rankings for the rookies. So it's kind of confusing in redraft because there's only like 2 of these guys that I am for sure are going to play to start the season. I know for sure Zach Wilson's the starting quarterback of the Jets, and I know for sure Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback of the Jaguars, but after that, I guess Fields is the only other one draftable in redraft because I think Lance, he may either play like fucking half the season or he might not play at all, and that kind of worries me. I think he will end up playing, but I wouldn't want to draft him in redraft. And then you kind of have to think about Mac Jones as well. Is Cam Newton the guy there for how long? How long can Cam Newton be the starter until Big Daddy Mac Jones comes in? I don't know. So it's kind of confusing when trying to figure out where to draft these rookie quarterbacks in redraft. Running backs is much more obvious. Obviously, Najee Harris is going to be a top 3 guy. Top 3 round guy. Javonte Williams and Najee Harris are going to be in like the 6 to 8 range. With the receivers, I think Jamar Chase as well as Devontae Smith will be pretty highly picked somewhere in like the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And then the other guys are just going to fall further back. So after Justin Tucker, the fucker, came off the board, again, guys, don't draft kickers early either. Just wait until later. It's just not worth it because then especially if you're drafting like a kicker and a defense in like the 8-9 swing, which is what a lot of people do because they filled out the quarterback, the receivers, the running backs, their tight ends out. They're like, I got to get my kicker and defense. And that does not work out very well. Wink, wink. So after Tyler, Boyd came off the board, Baltimore Ravens defense, followed by Harrison Bucker, the fucker, as well Tucker, the fucker, and Bucker, the fucker, Devin Singletary, A.J. Dillon, and Will Fuller the fifth. King Will Fuller the fifth. And then Young Ho Koo, my old bitch lame, but my Young Ho Koo. That's the only kicker that I will accept being drafted inside of the top 10 rounds. We still have a bunch of picks left on our team, so I am pretty confident that our squad is pretty solid as of right now. We are 4 picks away. We have Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods, Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, Mike Davis, Chase Claypool, James Conner, and Curtis Samuel. So we're going to have to start hammering in on these running backs. It may be a little early to draft some of these guys, but I love Gus Edwards in this scenario. I think that Gus Edwards, while I think J.K. Dobbins is the guy there, if he was to go down, Edwards would be amazing, and even if he's playing, Edwards is still going to get a decent amount of touches because J.K. Dobbins, in my opinion, is not going to get the stranglehold of carries there. He's going to get a lot of carries, a lot of receptions, so he's going to be great in fantasy and has top 12 potential, but I don't think that necessarily means that Gus Edwards can't have some very good late round value in round number 9 of your 2021 fantasy football drafts. If you guys have ended up enjoying thus far, we're about 25 minutes into the video, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So after we went ahead and drafted Gus the Bus Edwards, before that was Greg Zuerlein, Jarvis Landry, Jamar Chase, and Tony Pollard. After I went ahead and drafted Gus Bus Edwards, the 49ers defense came at the board, followed by Willie Lutz, Zach Moss, and my boy Jason Sanders, my Dolphins kicker. So we're back up on the board here, and I'm definitely going to be going quarterback at this point in the draft. I need to get a quarterback onto my team, and I feel very confident in Matthew Stafford being that guy. Now, I don't necessarily always draft to go ahead and get a wide receiver and quarterback on the same team, but in this scenario, that's how the draft is going to end up unfolding for us. Stafford and the Robert Woods connection. I love Stafford. If you guys want to go ahead and see some great throws from Stafford, follow me on Twitter. I retweeted it yesterday. It was this video this guy put up, and I was like, dude, Stafford legitimately is going to just blow people's minds in LA. They probably weren't watching him as distinctly in Detroit, and he's going to blow a lot of people's minds with how talented Matthew Stafford really is. After Matthew Stafford, we see Brandon Cooks, Michael Carter, Darrell Henderson, Michael Carter, Darrell Henderson, Matt Ryan, Robert Tonyan, Nyheim Hines, Devontae Smith, Hollywood Brown, Ryan Tannehill, and Trey Sermon. I'm going to go ahead and move myself up to the top of the screen. I apologize that you guys haven't been able to see the last couple of picks. I'll make myself a little smaller up here. So after round 10, closing with Tannehill, then Trey Sermon, Rob Gronkowski, the Indianapolis Colts, and Joey Burrow. So I'm pretty glad I drafted my quarterback there because people are going to tend to draft backup quarterbacks in these kind of leagues, in mock drafts and in regular redraft leagues, because a lot of people like to go ahead and snag 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. I'm the complete opposite. I'm looking to get 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. Now, I understand the thought process of drafting 2 tight ends, because if you're waiting super late to draft one of these guys, say I draft Irv Smith, who I think is going to be really fucking good, and he ends up sucking ass, right? He's terrible. Then it would have been advantageous for me to also take a shot on a guy like Cole Kmet, maybe later, Jared Cook in LA, something like that, or maybe Anthony Firkser is going to be a guy that a lot of people are talking about in Tennessee with Jonnu Smith gone, so maybe that's maybe advantageous to do. I just said maybe, call me maybe like 50 times in a row, so I apologize. So, we are back up here on the board in 2 picks. Irv Smith is going to be the guy for me at the tight end position. I feel ultra confident that with Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, gone, that Irv Smith is going to dominate in Minnesota. Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith, Dalvin Cook, and Kirk Cousins. You like that. Now, the reports are that the Minnesota Vikings were looking to draft Justin Fields. So hopefully that doesn't hurt Mr. Kirk Cousins' feelings. So we're going to go ahead and get Irv Smith here. Again, this offense did seem to be pretty solid last year, and I think that Irv Smith, if you look at the stats, when Kyle Rudolph was out, Irv Smith was very dominant, and then with Kyle Rudolph there, he wasn't. Kyle Rudolph moves to the New York Football Giants, which opens a big door for Irv Smith to have a lot of fantasy value this season. After Joe Burrow was Logan Thomas, Devontae Parker, Michael Pittman Jr., Latavius Murray, Irv Smith, Marvin Jones Jr., followed by, you like that, Kirk Cousins, who we were just talking about, who's going to be throwing the ball to my guy Irv Smith. After Kirk was Jamal Williams, who was just a handcuff for DeAndre Swift at this point after his move from Green Bay to Detroit. So we already got our tight end. We already have our quarterback. We have 2 bench spots left before hammering our kicker and defense. So as a good rule of thumb, you always want to make sure you have more running backs than wide receivers on your team. This is because when you're looking at the waiver wire, it's going to be very easy to pick up a wide receiver at any point, where it's going to be very hard to potentially find a sleeper running back that you can pick up off the waiver wire. So we're going to go ahead and draft Jeff Wilson here. With Trey Sermon, the room gets even more crowded in San Francisco, but one of these guys is going to end up being the running back 1 on this team for multiple weeks, who's going to be very good because the 49ers love to jam the ball down the opponent's throat, and I think that Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to have the potential to be the guy to jam the ball down the throat of the defenses. So after we went ahead and drafted Jeff Wilson Jr., came Corey Davis, followed by Phillip Lindsay. That whole Houston backfield, Lindsay, Mark Ingram, and David Johnson that I was kind of talking about earlier, I'm just not drafting any of them. I don't think any of them provide any value to my roster, because even if one of them gets hurt, then you're in a dual head backfield situation. You got to hope 2 guys get hurt just so that, and you don't want, obviously, I don't hope for injuries, but that's, when you're drafting them, that's what you're hoping. Because otherwise, your team is just fucking terrible, because they're never going to be getting the ball at all. So it makes really no sense. I think all the guys are going to touch the ball. It's going to be a triple-headed backfield dragon type of thing, and you just do not want anything to do with that, in my opinion. Let's see our team right here on the board so we can talk about it. Matthew Stafford, Diggs, Woods, Ezekiel Elliott, Chris Carson, Irv Smith, Mike Davis, Chase Claypool, James Conner, Curtis Samuel, Gus Bus Edwards, and Jeff Wilson Jr. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers. So our last pick is going to be a wide receiver before we hammer the kickers and defenses. So let's take a looky here at the wide receivers. Mike Williams is a guy that every single year I'm probably going to end up drafting him in best ball because he does have that very good value in best ball because he's going to have these games where he pops off with Justin Herbert, the pervert. He has shown us that he has had stretches of games where he's good, but the stretch of games is like 2 games, and then he completely falls off the face of the earth, and then he like lights it up for another game, and then he's just doing nothing, and then plays really good, and he's been dealing with injuries in the past. He's a guy that I think is a very good player, but I just don't know if he's worth a late round shot in fantasy because he just frankly cannot stay healthy. A lot of the guys back here, it's some deep dives, but there's a couple of guys that I do like. I think Ruggs is kind of like Mike Williams, but with more untapped potential because we haven't really seen. Now, they're 2 different players, obviously, because Ruggs is one of those super fast guys. Mike Williams is one of those really strong receivers that is just bigger than you, and he jumps up and he fucking makes you look like a baby back bitch when you're trying to defend him. Ruggs is just a super fast guy, Lightning McQueen, but we didn't see him play all that well last year, so I think there's a lot of potential for him to really ball out. In 2021, Rondell Moore is a guy I like as well to potentially be the wide receiver 2 in Arizona with A.J. Green, Larry Fitzgerald, and DeAndre Hopkins. Gabriel Davis as the wide receiver 3 in Buffalo provides a lot of value, but again, are you really trying to draft a wide receiver 3 in redraft? Probably not. Probably not. Darius Slayton in the same scenario, probably going to end up being the wide receiver 3 in New York. The Green Bay receivers, dude, I'd rather fucking blow my brains out than trying to figure out who to draft besides Devontae Adams, if I'm being honest with you. Because every year, there'll be the debate, MVS versus Allen Lazard. And now the Clemson guys there, whose name's escaping my brain. So it's like, what do you even do? Like, genuinely, what do you even do? You just don't know, and you just are going to draft the wrong guy every year. It's happened for the last 2 years. You just draft the wrong guy because the only guy there that you want to be drafting at the wide receiver position is Devontae Adams. So let's look at the draft board real quick before we have to pick. After Philip Lindsay was AB, Cole God, Hunter Henry, Michael Gallup, Laviska Shenault, Cole Beasley, Jonnu Smith, Alexander Madison, Mike Williams, Mike Will made it, Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle. Why the fuck did this guy draft a backup quarterback? Is that Russ's backup? I think Russ's backup's Geno. That'd be hilarious if that's what they did, though. New England Patriots, Baker Mayfield, Henry Ruggs, T.Y. Hilton. So we're probably just going to take a shot here on the upside. You know what? I'm going to do it again. I do this every single fucking year. Mecole Hardman, they didn't draft a clear wide receiver 2 there. With Sammy Watkins gone, maybe now it's the Hardman season. Could be wrong. Probably going to be wrong because he never ends up panning out. But I'm going to do it again. I'll fucking do it again. And I just drafted him again for the zillionth time in my existence of doing mock drafts because I always fall in love with Mecole Hardman and he always stabs me. That's what happened to O.J. Simpson's wife. You hate to see it. So, after we went with Mecole Hardman, let's see who came off the board here. After Henry Ruggs was T.Y., Jalen Reagor, Danny Dimes, Mecole Hardman, Austin Hooper, Evan Ingram. Now, if you're in a league where people are drafting like 3 fucking backup quarterbacks, then you need to make sure you draft 2, but that was just not the case of most leagues. So we're going to be drafting our kicker and our defense here, and we're probably just going to fast forward all the way to my round 15th pick after I make the kicker, because I don't think you want to sit here listening to me ramble on about random shit for the next 5 minutes. Maybe you do. So I apologize, but we're going to go super fast mode after this and get to the next pick. We're going to get my boy Rodrigo Blankenship, Indianapolis Colts kicker, the Blankenship, the rocket ship, Rodrigo Blankenship. The dude with the fucking specs, like he's playing basketball back in the day. After we went with Rodrigo, Cole Kmet came out the board, followed by the Tampa Bay Bucks defense, Jalen Waddle, Cleveland, Rashad Penny, Trevor Lawrence, J.D. McKissick, Kansas City, Hayden Hurst, New Orleans Saints, Jason Myers, Blake Jarwin, Mason Crosby, the no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, and Robbie Gould. Followed by Michael Badgley, the Miami Dolphins defense. Now we got to pick a defense, but again, guys, like I said, I'm just going to be streaming defenses. We're going to go with Chicago, but again, we don't even know the schedule. So I'm going to wait for the draft to end. I think it'll show me something on the screen. Maybe. Again, I haven't used Yahoo this season yet. I normally play on NFL. I do some leagues on Yahoo. I actually think Yahoo is the most visually appealing during the draft, in my opinion. That's why I kind of like doing mocks on here, because I think the whole screen, like how you can look at the players, how you can look at all this, yeah, the draft is complete and it doesn't show you anything, which I thought it would. So we're just going to go ahead here and click on the draft board one more time if you guys want a good look at this. So thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know down below in the comment section if you guys would like to see any other videos from me on maybe a different website. Maybe I try ESPN or something like that. Let me know. I would do that for you guys. Obviously, throughout the offseason, I will be trying to do more mocks on like NFL and stuff like that. In August. I also like doing them on Sleeper and Fantasy Pros because it's just much faster and it opens me up to be able to talk a lot more in depth, whereas during this, it's like fucking super speed. Like I snorted a line of booger sugar before this, and I'm just going super fast mode through all the picks, but maybe some people enjoy that as well. I like making both kinds of videos, to be honest with you, so just let me know which one you guys prefer down below. This video is probably like 30 plus minutes long. It says 40 minutes here, but there was points where I had to get up because my fucking cat walked in the room and was scratching the door, so I had to lift him up, move him, and there was all types of other stuff. I take drinks during the video because obviously you can't talk for 40 minutes straight. So thank you guys all so much for watching. I love you guys all. Make sure to stay safe. Happy Mother's Day. Make sure to kiss your moms today. I love you all. Goodbye.